Often, writers and poets use language figuratively to create images and connections that help us to understand a text better. Today, we are going to look at two common figurative expressions, the simile and the metaphor, which are used to compare unlike things, and how you can tell a simile from the metaphor. What comes to your mind when you hear or read figurative expressions like this? The boy walks like an elephant. Here, the writer has compared two unlike things, a boy's walking style to an elephant's. Your mind is probably already making comparisons and connections, so you probably picture something like this. Now, the writer has made this comparison so as to describe the way the boy walks without having to use too many words. That one expression immediately gives us all the following impressions. The boy walks heavily and noisily, slowly in a lumbering manner, or in a stately way. He stomps around and takes up a lot of space. Now, what comes to your mind when you hear or read this figurative expression? The old woman's face was a roadmap. Here, the writer has compared two unlike things, the old woman's face and a roadmap. Why do you think the writer has done this? The writer has compared an old woman's face to a roadmap in order to describe her face more clearly. From that one short expression, we can infer the following. Physically, like a map that is used often, her face is creased and weathered. It looks crumpled and wrinkled, probably also heavily lined. Her face may also look worn out. Overall, we could also say her face shows her life experiences, much like a map of her life journey. For example, the wrinkles around her mouth show she probably laughed or smiled a lot throughout her life as she responded to what life gave her. So how are these two figurative expressions alike? They both ask us to picture one thing as being similar to or like another thing. And these things can be human or non-human. In The Boy Walks Like an Elephant, a boy is compared to an elephant. In The Old Woman's Face Was a Roadmap, an old woman's face is compared to a map. But which is a simile and which is a metaphor? And how can you tell the difference? Well, similes and metaphors make comparisons by using different sentence structures. You can recognize a simile because it uses words such as like or as to compare two things to make the likeness clear. Thus, the expression, the boy walks like an elephant, is a simile as it uses like to compare the boy's walk to an elephant's. You can also rewrite it this way. The boy walks as heavily as an elephant. This is also a simile, because the word as has been used to make the comparison. In contrast, a metaphor compares two things by simply stating that one thing is the other thing. Words like or as are not used. Metaphors directly equate or identify one thing as the other. Because of this, metaphors often sound more emphatic or more concrete than similes. So, the old woman's face was a roadmap is a metaphor. Let's check your understanding of what similes and metaphors are. Can you identify which of the following are similes and which are metaphors? Let's look at this sentence. Like a needle poking the sky, the building stretched above the rest of the city. Is this a simile or a metaphor? If you said it was a simile, you're correct. There is the use of like to compare the building to a needle. Let's take a look at another example. The twisted talons of the old man's hands were painful to behold. Is this a simile or a metaphor? If you said it was a metaphor, you're correct. There is no use of words such as like or as to compare the old man's hands to bird claws. So that was an introduction to similes and metaphors, and how they are alike and different. Hope you enjoyed it.